Because of the auxiliary generator exhaust, the center jerry can needs to be mounted above the unit, which makes it ride a lot higher than that of the same unit on the opposite side. Another discerning feature of this side of the vehicle is that on the rear portion is where the tank's spare tires are kept. The spare wheels that we see here are the Tamiya kit original. The Tamiya kit does supply you with extra spare wheels, which is a nice touch. As for mounting them to the tank, that's facilitated with the SKP Resin M51 wheel mounts. The wheel mounts themselves are very nicely detailed and nicely done, and fit the Tamiya wheels perfectly. In order to fit them to the tank, they were mounted to the vehicle, and then sculpted weld beads completed the rest of the detailing. Moving our way to the front of the vehicle, quick addition to this model, and as well as to the EastCoastArmory.com product line, is that of the Sherman family fire extinguisher box. This quick little resin upgrade here is absent on the stock Tamiya kits, and add a nice little quick punch of detail. The fire extinguisher handles themselves are molded in, and on this model are painted red, as they should be on all vehicles of the Sherman family. Moving our way to the front of the vehicle, the model's headlights are the aftermarket metal headlight and taillight set from Shumo. The taillights on this vehicle, which were seen in the previous scene, are also from the same set. The lenses, however, I was unable to salvage the Tamiya clear plastic ones, so new lenses were casted in clear epoxy. This was done on both the head and tail lights. In addition, the tank features my usual tube for the headlight plug. This is found on both brush guards on either side of the vehicle. As for the M1919 bow machine gun, this is the stock Tamiya piece. However, it features the new ECA 1/16 scale M1919 machine gun cover ball. The new ball has its cast texturing added, as well as its 4 mounting fasteners found into the casting. Moving our way to the driver's side of the vehicle, one modification that was made to this model, which is stereotype for the Israeli Shermans, is the modification of the tank siren. World War II Shermans had a siren that was found in this location here with the elaborate birdcage style brush guard. However, when the Israelis modified the Shermans, they replaced the standard siren with that of a blackout, or what I believe is an infrared light. The light that you see here is a new addition to the EastCoastArmory.com product line, and comes with the light, the bracket, as well as the power cord. As for the brush guard itself, some Shermans I've seen retain the standard birdcage style brush guard, while others had the birdcage portion eliminated to allow more light to be emitted without any obstruction. As for the top portion of the guard, it is also very common on Israeli Shermans to have the top portion covered up with a sheet metal guard. The guard that you see on this model here is also fabricated out of sheet steel. Moving our way from the headlights brings us to the driver's grab handle. The grab handle itself is a common found piece on Israeli Shermans. The grab handle that you see here is just like the real ones, fabricated out of sheet metal, has a soldered on support rib, and is sculpt welded to the vehicle. Move on up to the bow hatches. Bow hatches have their Shumo cast metal brush guards, which are highly recommended. The hatches themselves are made out of resin and were supplied with the Nick Aguilar kit. What's unique about them is that they are separately casted from the upper hull, which allows them the ability to be made to be fully functional. Both of the hatches were fabricated to work, and under the driver's side hatch is that of the tank's power switch. On the opposite side of the model, the hatch opens up and allows you access to the tank's recharge jack. By getting access to the recharge jack, eliminates the need to open up the model in order to get in and out of the battery. Once the tank is done recharging, you simply stuff the jack back into the model, close the hatch, and you're ready to go. Moving our way to the model's turret. The turret that you see here, the entire surface has been covered with rough cast texturing to match that of the hull and transmission. The rear bustle in the back is modified on the Israeli Shermans. The Israelis amputated the rear portion of the T-23 turret and welded this large counterweight on to facilitate that of the larger gun. The counterweight itself is molded into the Tamiya kit. However, the weld beads were improved from the kit original. Also modified from the kit was that of the grab handle. The large grab rail that we see here was originally supplied with the kit. However, while I was doing the rebuild, the piece was very flimsy and fell apart. Rather than trying to piece back the original, I went ahead and fabricated a new one out of brass. The entire brass unit here is all soldered together, which leaves for the optimum in realism as well as strength. Also replaced from the molded in ones were the small little tie down loops here for the spare M2HB machine gun barrels. The units that were molded in were removed and small scale metal ones were added in their place. While we're on this portion of the turret, we have here the MP48 spring antenna base. This is the EastCoastArmory.com one and is fully bendable. On the opposite side of the bustle gets us to the MP65 antenna base. The MP65 is another new addition to EastCoastArmory.com, and unlike the MP48, which utilizes a spring, on the MP65 there is a bottom insulator, and then the top middle section here is actually made out of rubber. On the ECA unit, this has been built into the casting by utilizing flexible resin. The unit is fully flexible, just like it is on the real counterpart. Moving our way to the front portion of the turret, really quick, the Israeli tanks also have their smoke trajectors mounted on the turret. The smoke trajectors themselves are supplied with the kit and are nicely done. Only additions that were made were that of weld beads around the bases of the smoke trajectors. Moving along, gets us to the tank's vane sight. As you can see, the vane sight here was modified from the kit original. The kit original vane sight was very stubby and was very basic in detailing. The rear portion was fabricated out of styrene and brass. Also, next to that, we have here the tank's gunner scope. This is one portion here which was very weak on the Tamiya kit. Due to the way the Tamiya kit is molded, there is a large gaping hole underneath the gunner scope guard box. A new addition to the EastCoastArmory.com product line supplies you with a detail insert that gets glued in from the bottom portion of the turret, which gives you not only the periscope, but the periscope cover, as well as the other small detailing that is around this portion here of the turret. Moving our way to the model's mantlet. The mantlet received cast texturing, as well as the tarpaulin rails. Tarpaulin rails that you see here are fabricated out of metal, both steel and brass. The front lift ring is missing on the Tamiya kit and was also fabricated. Moving our way to the last and most notable detailing on the gun mantlet, and that is of the searchlight. One of the requirements that the customer had was that the vehicle must also be able to retain its Tamiya infrared tank fighting capability. The original builder mounted the IR emitter on top of the searchlight bracket, and he had the power cable for the LED enter into a very large hole which was drilled into the mantlet to enter the vehicle. Not only is this setup incorrect, but it also really did hurt the look of the model. While working on the build, I decided to conceal the LED emitter in that of the tank searchlight. First, what was done, the large hole in the mantlet was plugged up, and the original size for the periscope was re-drilled in. The power cable itself for the LED was moved from its original location to this portion here on the top deck. This top deck is where the power cable for the searchlight would be exiting the vehicle on the real tank. The LED power cable itself was then covered in shrink tubing to conceal a lot of the braid and also to help improve the look. As for the LED emitter is concealed in this IDF style searchlight. The searchlight that we have here is a new addition to the EastCoastArmory.com product line. It can be used to conceal the emitter. It can also be used as a detail component in that instead, in place of the IR emitter, there is a clear resin bulb which can get glued to the center portion. Also included with the ECA set is not only the searchlight, but the bracket, as well as the mounting fasteners, and a clear styrene plate for use of a lens. The searchlight bracket that gets welded to the mantlet that we see here is a new fabricated unit. The original unit was permanently glued onto the IR emitter and was destroyed while working on the IR emitter for the searchlight. The unit that we see here is fabricated out of brass and is welded to and has its weld sculpted into the mantlet. In addition to the searchlight, the tank's commander's coupler has also been made to be fully functional. The original builder, since he put on the Tamiya infrared fighting system, permanently glued the hatch in the open position. The hatch was reconstructed and modified so that it is fully functional, in order that when it is time to hook up the infrared, the hatch can simply be opened and the unit be plugged into the commander's coupler. As for the model's markings, the markings that you see on the vehicle are all hand-painted to the vehicle. No decals or stencils were used. All of the markings were hand-applied by a paintbrush, as from looking at the real Israeli tanks, were done in a similar manner. Also, on the top portion of the vehicle, we have here a large white stripe with black strokes running on each end, running towards the center portion of the model. The reason for this is on real Israeli tanks of the period, they featured this stripe for aerial recognition purposes, similar to what the Russians did at the end of World War II. Like I mentioned before, the tank is fully radio controlled, and with the battery fully charged, let's go ahead and take the tank for a test drive. As I mentioned before, the vehicle's radio control functions were all assembled by a previous builder who did an adequate job assembling them. We'll walk over the procedures for turning on the model. The tank utilizes first a Futaba 2 GHz radio. One advantage of that is that it has one less umbilical cord to go up into the turret for that of the antenna. To turn on the tank, like with all radio controlled tanks, first you turn on the radio, and then we power on the tank. Starts its engine startup noise. Now to drive it, again, this stick here is for driving, this stick here is for turret functions. To rotate the turret, you actually go up and down on the radio, and to elevate and depress the gun, you go left and right. First, we'll rotate the turret. And elevate and depress the gun. For the battle machine gun, that's typical for the Tamiya. You bring the stick down and hit down on the stick. As for the main gun, the builder went ahead and rigged the main gun firing to this button here on the radio. Now let's put the tank through some of its paces. And that concludes this model showcase video for this 1/16 scale radio-controlled Israeli M51 Super Sherman. If you like this video, stop by and like us on Facebook. And don't forget to check out eastcoastarmory.com for more 1/16 as well as 1/6 scale detail components and vehicle builds. Thank you.